A very good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America in Washington. I am Gibbs Dube in Maryland, and this is Live Talk.
And I'm Marvelous Ngarivhume, broadcasting from my home in Washington, D.C. this Monday, August the 24th, 2020. Today we're looking at the current situation regarding COVID-19, where we've seen the figures in Zimbabwe slightly declining. We've also seen the number of people that have actually recovered from COVID-19 increasing. We currently have in Zimbabwe 5,930 cases of COVID-19 positive people, and we have 155 people that have died so far. But the good news there gives us that the number of recoveries has increased to 4,872 currently.
Yes, Marvelous. Just hold on 1 second. So what we see is that there are 903 active cases of COVID-19 in Zimbabwe right now, and there are 5,930 cases in all. And out of these cases, there are 4,872 people that have recovered, and 155 that have actually died. So now I think one of our guests is trying to call us. So we are going to take him as he comes. So now we see that throughout the world, Marvelous, there are roughly about 23 million people that have contracted COVID-19, and 809,349 people have died. This is according to Johns Hopkins University. And the same university actually reports that 5.7 million people have actually contracted COVID-19 worldwide. I mean, in America. So, and then out of that number, 176,809 have died. Yes, Rwanda balinjani lapha khona endaweni zonke zomhlaba. Yes, yabona ukuthi COVID-19 sibili yamemetheka kwele Zimbabwe sokulabantu kuphela abayi-903 okuthi balama active virus emzimbeni wabo igciwane leli lokho lisangani libathwalise nzima. Phakathi kwabantu abayi-5,930 asababanjwa umkhuhlane lowo, kuthi-ke abayi-155 sebabhubha emhlabeni wonke jikelele. I-Johns Hopkins University ithi kulabantu abayi-23.5 million asebebanjwe i-COVID-19, abedlula 809,000 sebabhubha. Khonapha-ke kwelemelika kulabantu phose 5.8 million asebebanjwe i-COVID-19, kuthi abayi-176,809 sebabhubha. Okunye njalo siyakhuluma ngakho kuhlelo lamhlanje Marvelous. Sikhangela khonokho-ke ukuthi kulabantu eZimbabwe abayemthethwandaba abaphikisa uhulumende abalokhu bencitshwa ibail. Siyakukhuluma ngalawo khonokho sibona ukuthi uhamba njani. Kunjalo Marvelous.
Aiwa, kunawo vachangobva kupinda muchirongwa tinokuchingamidzai. Ini ndini Marvelous Ngarivhume, ndiri muWashington uko ndiri kutefenyura ndiri kumba pamusoro pedenda reCovid-19 kana kuti coronavirus. Tinoona pari zvino chirwere ichi chiri kuramba chakatekeshera pasi rose, asi bazi rezveutano remuZimbabwe riri kuti iro pane vanhu vabatwa nechirwere ichi cheCovid-19 pari zvino vari pa5,930, uyezve kune vamwe vakabatwa nechirwere ichi asi vakachikunda vari pa4,872. Kwozouya vakawanikwa vachibatwa nechirwere ichi vakatadza kuchikunda vakashaya vari pa155. Ndo mamiriro akaita zvinhu. Takatarisa zviri kuitika muZimbabwe, tozotarisawo pasi rose zvinoreva kana neimo muno muWashington DC mandiri. Muno muWashington DC mandiri pari zvino tinoona kuti tine vanhu 13,534 vabatwa neCovid-19, 604 vakawanikwa ivo vachishaya. MuAmerica mese matirimo muno mune 5.7 million vanhu vabatwa neCovid-19, 176,000 vakawanikwa vachishaya. Kozotarisa kuti globally zvinosanganisirawo Zimbabwe nedzimwe nyika pasi rose pane vanhu 23 million vabatwa neCovid-19, 808,000 vakawanikwa ivo vachishaya. Saka tange tiri kukurukura nhau iyoyi yezviri kuitika zvakare panguva iyo pasi rose riri kurwisa COVID-19. Tinoona kuti muZimbabwe mune vanhu vazhinji pari zvino tichitarisa vari kuwanikwa ivo vachinyimwa mikana yekuti vabhadhare mari yechibatiso kuti vatongwe vachibva vari kumba. Tinoona nhasi vaJob Sikhala vanga vari pamberi pedare, tikaona zvakare Hopewell Chin'ono achinyimwa zvakare mukana wekuti abhadhare mari yechibatiso. Hopewell Chin'ono anova iye mutori wenhau akawanikwa iye achisungwa pamwe chete navaJacob Ngarivhume zvichinzi vanga vari kuda kufurira vanhu kuti vawanikwe vachiratidzira musi waJuly 31st. Saka ndozvatichange tirikurukura tichiona kuti zvakamira sei, tichinzwa kubva kune nyanzvi kuti zviri kuitika izvi hakusi kutyora kwekodzero dzevanhu here kana kuti zvakamira sei.
Yes, loba uCakaphulu ozasilandisela ngakhonokho ke okwebail ukuthi kuvele kuhamba njani. Baba Phulu siyakwamukela kuhlelo.
Ngiyabonga Gibbs, ngiyabonga Studio 7 ukuba lami namhlanje.
Yes, so Mr. Cakaphulu is also a member of parliament for Nkulumane. He is under the MDC Alliance. So now, Mr. Phulu, thank you so much for joining us. So our first question is, you know, there are these gentlemen, Job Sikhala, Hopewell Chin'ono, and Jacob Ngarivhume. They've been going to court, you know, seeking bail, but the courts have actually denied them that kind of permission or granted them bail. So now tell us, as a professional attorney, you know, what happens when somebody goes to court seeking bail, and why can bail be denied?
Right, Gibbs, I myself have done many bail applications in my career. And I'll tell the listening public something interesting about bail applications. Before the 2013 Constitution, it used to be that when someone was arrested, because of the presumption that the person is proven guilty until otherwise. Remember, when we arrest someone, we're not saying they are guilty. So we are saying that while they are being tried, should they be in custody or should they be outside? And in fact, the overwhelming view, I think, is that because you are innocent, you should be outside. But because also, remember, we are balancing your freedom with the interests of justice. Because what are the interests of justice? Say we have arrested an accused person who is a rapist, who's on a rape spree, or a serial killer. We arrest him today, we charge him, but before we try him, we let him out. Is he going to go and commit further offenses? We look at the person and say, is this person going to commit further offenses? Or is this person going to interfere with witnesses? So we release him and he goes around threatening the witnesses. Is this person going to run away is another consideration. So, and when we say so, we actually look at actual evidence. It's not just a matter of surmising in the air. We look at their behavior and what they've actually done and decide whether they are going to run away. So those are the reasons why we would deny someone bail. Post the 2013 Constitution now, we have inserted a clause in the Constitution that says, in fact, now, everyone is entitled to bail. So the onus is now on the state to show why they are denying someone bail. For example, if they say he's going to run away, the onus is on the state to show reasons why, tangible reasons why they think the person is going to run away, why they think the person is going to commit further offenses, why they think, you know, the person is going to interfere with the witnesses. And in fact, an interesting thing, Gibbs, is that should the court still feel that someone may run away or may interfere with witnesses, the court has the option of actually giving me an order saying, if they are afraid that you're going to be cheating. You saw, remember Carlton Wendy's case?
Yes, yes.
Charlton, they said don't tweet. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The court said don't tweet. So the court has the option to say don't tweet or don't do A, B, C, D. If they think you're going to run away, bring your title deeds. There are so many options that they can do. So it is a very, very difficult and onerous thing to deny someone bail, particularly for this kind of cases where you can't see a justification of why the person will run away and so forth and so forth and so forth.
Yes, Baba Phulu, sicela ukufaka isindebele ukuthi abantu bakuzwe khona ukukhuluma ngakho.
Umuntu angancishwa ibail nxa inkundla ikhangele ibisibona ingani umuntu lo angabaleka. Kumele kube lezizathu ezifakwayo ezokuthi kungani lesithi umuntu lo uzabaleka. Kumbe nxa kuthiwa umuntu lo angasuka ahambe ayephambanisa ukuphendla kwendaba ngokuyahlukuluza abafakazi. Kumbe mhlawumbe kuthiwa umuntu lo singamekela ephandle uzaqhubeka elokhu esenza amacala afana lala. kodwa kunjalo siphinda sikhangele futhi ukuthi icourt ilawo amandla ukuthi lanxa ibona kunjalo imtshele umuntu lo imniki order ukuthi ungakwenzi lokho ungavakatshela uzibani letha ipassport yakho zikhona izinto ezingenziwa ukuthi umuntu lo enqatshelwe ukwenza khonoko okwesatshwa yicourt ukuncisha umuntu ibail akumelanga kube yinto nje elula enziwa mahlayana ngoba wonke umuntu ulelungelo lokuthola ibail ngaphandle nxa kulezizathu eziqinileyo ezitholakalayo ukuthi indaba encitshwa ibail amacaleni lawo elikhuluma ngawo asizange sabona kuthiwa yekelani ukutwitter yekelani ukubhala lithi lethana ama-title deed akula sizatho esiqinileyo engisibonayo kuwo wonke la macala ukuthi bancitshelwane ibail.
Yes, tolubambe khonapho-ke silo Dr. Mavaza Marvelous.
Regai timboenda kuna vamavhasa tinzwe asi rega ndimbotaura zvanga zviri kutaura munyarikani wedu apa vari kutaura ivo kuti vachitarisa bumbiro remitemo pari zvino rinotaura iro kuti munhu anofanira kunge achipiwa mukana wokuti abhadhare mari yechibatiso achibva kumba kana zvichikwanisa. Koti inogona kutaura kuti uya nematitle deeds kana kuti usaite zvokuenda padandemutande setwitter nezvimwe zvotakaona zvichiitika kuna vachauton hwende. Saka vari kutaura ivo kuti pachitariswa ipo bumbiro remutemo zviri kuitika izvi pari zvino hazvina kunyatsomira zvakanaka. Saka regai ndiende kuna vamavhaza ndobvunzeni kuti Dr. Mavaza, manzwa zvanga zviri kutaurwa navapulu, munoti nezvavataura?
So let me bring Mr. Mavaza. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mavaza.
Thank you. Right, am I speaking Shona or English?
English first, then you go Shona.
All right. The first thing is Pulu had not explained it very well. He spoke like a defense counsel, but he was supposed to speak like a very impartial person. What am I saying? The Constitution says the starting point is everybody must be given bail. That's the starting point, and that's not the ending point. So when that becomes a starting point, it means we then have to look at the case on the round and see if a person is a fit and proper candidate for bail. Now, in the case of Job Sikhala, he had shown the propensity of running away. He has been in hiding for 30 days, from a bush to a house, from a house to a ceiling, everywhere. And he had shown that he is very difficult to bring to court without putting measures which make sure that he is in court. So the only easiest and cheaper measures at the moment was to detain him until the prosecution or the state or the court rather is satisfied that Job is going to comply by any regulations given on him. In this case, Job was invited to come to the police station. He did not go. He went away. Not only going away, he then started sending videos defying the police, attacking the police, committing the same crime he has been asked to come to be interviewed about. So this political activism does not work with court. It can work in politics, yes, but when you go to court, the court does not look at the political meaning of what you have done. The court looks at the legal meaning. So the courts are not the government. Neither the courts are ZANU-PF. They are none. They are not aligned to any of those parties. And the magistrates are very, very impartial human beings on earth, and were always sober. And so in that aspect, when the magistrate gives you a decision of refusing bail, he does that with a heavy heart. Why? Because the starting point was to give this person bail, but the person had spoiled his chances of getting bail by running away, by hiding, and he did not go in an easy way. And again, like in the case of Hopewell Chin'ono, Hopewell was asked, and I'm sure Pulu you would agree with me. By the way, Gibbs, me and Pulu, we know each other from when Pulu was young.
Yes.
So the position here is with Hopewell Chin'ono, he was asked by court if he would stop tweeting. He said he was not sure. That alone, he left the court with no choice. That was the first hearing before Justice Chitapi. Then the case was referred back to to the magistrates court, then the magistrates now are simply looking at the way the country is in a tense mood, and he's saying if anybody is released and puts anything on Twitter which is inciting, the country will just take over, and there will be chaos. So in other words, to protect peace, they are in custody for the protection of themselves, of others, and of the nation at large. So in other words, the bail refusal is not politically motivated. It's legally motivated.
And in Shona?
Kuti muchivanhu chikonzero chaita kuti vasikhala vanyimwe chibatiso ndechekuti vasikhala vakaratidza kuti imharanzongo isingade kubatwa kana kuteerera mutemo kana kudaidzwa kwayakaitwa nemapurisa kuti iuye, vakaramba. Vachinge varamba vakabva vapinda mukati mekuhwanda, mekushayikwa mukati medzimba, mumasango. Pavanga vari kutiza mapurisa kudaro, havana kungotiza vakanyarara, vakatanga kutotaura vachinyomba mapurisa, vachinyomba matare, vachinyomba hurumende. Saka vakaratidza kuti munhu asingakwanise kuteerera mutemo wenyika kana kuwirirana nemapurisa ari kuita basa rekuchengetedza mutemo. Saka nekuda kwekudaro, dare rinotarisa kuti tikakuburitsa kunze usingateerere zvotaurwa nemupurisa, usingaremekedze mapurisa, usingaremekedze dare racho, unozodzoka here kudare. Saka mutemo unotarisa, unoona kuti no, haangadzoke kudare nekuti atoratidza kare kuti handidzoki mukandiburitsa panze. Chepiri, mukuru wangu vapulu vanga vati bumbiro remutemo rinoti munhu wese anofanira kupiwa bail. Bumbiro remutemo rinoti pekutangira munhu achipinda mukoti, panotanga kufungwa najaji kana namajistrate kana nemutongi ndepekuti apiwe chibatiso. Asi tabva pekutangira ipapo panozova nezvimwe zvinoita kuti anyimwe kana kuti apiwe. Saka munhu anopinda mukoti ane kodzero yekupiwa chibatiso. Iye anozouraya ega kodzero yake nezvaakaita asungwa, nezvaakaita asungwa, nezvaanozotaura paanenge abvunzwa mibvunzo nemutongi. Saka kunyimwa kwaitwa vanhu ava chibatiso, vaNgarivhume, vaHopewell Chin'ono navaJob Sikhala, hakusi kunzi chikonzero chematengero enyika. Aiwa, inyaya yedare, inyaya iri pamutemo. Mutemo washandiswa, havana kushandisa kuti vanoenderana kubato ripi.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Pulu, if what Dr. Mavaza is saying, and I'm getting it right, so Mr. Sikhala may be denied on possibilities that he may actually disappear. And then when it comes to the others, they actually were supposed maybe to get bail in the first instance, but this has not happened. So why then go every day to seek bail, if that's the case?
Now, I think maybe one thing I should look at, I think maybe you should have had 3 speakers so that Dr. Mavaza could articulate from one side, another speaker articulates from the point of view of these others, you know, the two different points of view. However, because I'm supposed to be balanced, because you merely asked me to give the principles when you asked me that question.
That's right, yes.
And
yes,
I did say that the balance between the interests of justice and the interests of freedom, I think I was balanced. Now, but now, when you look at it in the case of Job Sikhala, the difficulty with me, unlike Dr. Mavaza, I don't have the specifics, the details of what happened. And also in the other cases, but generally speaking, if it was true that Job Sikhala was running and hiding and inflaming and so forth, one would then say, if these were being applied in that manner, why is it that Ngarivhume is still in custody? Why are they all being treated the same? As if there is... now you see, you are forcing me to go to the other side of the pendulum to try and see it from that point of view, to say, why is it that they all seem to be treated in the same manner? Ngarivhume did not say he wanted to tweet again. Ngarivhume did not run away. But it seems that they are all being treated in the same manner, simply from the point of view of the fact that maybe the authorities frown upon what they did. But it would be unfair for me to start saying the details because I don't know. So certainly, yes, if the court analyzes that way. But if you look at the analysis of the court, right now I don't see a prominent, trend in the media which explains the reasons why they are being denied bail, except to say, of course, they are saying that, one refused to say, I'm not going to tweet again. Even if he has said that, Charlton Wende wasn't asked that question when he was ordered not to go on Facebook. So an order could still have been made in that regard. But also you're looking at what we tweeted. Now, if you look at what we tweeted really, he simply said, look, the government of the day must go. And if you go back to, there are so many different ways in which a government can go. Remember that one government, you tweet via election. And this is the point of contention to say, this is not an election year. So what do you mean? But we know that Robert Mugabe went the same way and no one was arrested simply for that. So there's a lot of things that you look at. But from an analysis, if you are looking at an overview and using your experience, I can tell you that including the unprecedented effect of debarring a lawyer from representing her client, even if she shares the views of her client, I mean, certainly there's a lot that we can read in, which tells us that this bail application is politically charged. That doesn't mean to say that the courts are exercising politics, but it's politically charged. And in any politically charged case, the bail application is certainly not proceeding in the same way that the guy who has murdered someone is being processed today. But obviously the cases would differ depending on the different circumstances. Why do they keep going back? You are allowed to go back to the same court to seek bail as long as you are able to show that the circumstances have changed. So for example, if Chin'ono were to go back and say, I have reconsidered, the circumstances have changed, the situation is no longer as flammable as it was in the beginning, give me bail. Or he says, I am now willing to say I am not going to tweet. Then if he can show a change in circumstances, then he would be granted bail. But obviously I accept what Dr. Mavaza says, that it's very difficult to discuss a case which has its own specific circumstances in a general way.
Right, ngicela ukukhuluma ngesindebele nje khonapho generally ngesintu seven.
Ekade sikutsho futhi ukuthi nxa sesifika ezindabeni zebhayili lapha sitshile ukuthi bayakhangela ukuthi uzabaleka yini kumbe hatshi. Bese bekhangela ukuthi wena kumele ube uzihambahambele nje ungavalelwa. Bakhangela ukuthi amacala futhi la kumele ngabe lokho esenziwa ubalanswe. So uDr. Mavaza utshoyo kuliqiniso. Kodwa esikutshoyo kuleli cala thina sithi sibone ngazani ipolitiki yiyo egijima phambili. Ngoba sikhangele phela siyabona ukuthi kuthiwani lezi zinto okuthiwa bazenzile azifanani nomuntu ohambe eqhuma abantu impimbo. Kodwa khangela indlela abaphathwa ngayo. Njalo ngabe kuyikuthi uJob Sikhala kuthiwa nguyobalekileyo. Ungani bonke bevalelwa ngendlela efanayo laba abanye bengabalekanga. Wakhayela uNgarivhume kazange wayala ukuthi yena ngasoze atweet. But kodwa bonke baphathwa ngendlela efanayo. So yikho thina sisithi nxa sikhangele sibone ngazani ezompolitics lazo zingabe zilengxenye endleleni amacala lawo aphathwa ngayo ngama-prosecutor labanye abajiyeneyo.
Yes, cela ubambe khonapho ke sipise uMavela simhlanganya uye sizwe ukuthi yena uthini kumbe uyafuna ukuthi abuze uDr. Mavaza. Marvelous.
Tombodzokera kuna vaMavaza, tinoona kuti nyika dzekunze dzakadai sevana United Nations, vana European Union nevamwewo vari kutarisa ivo zvinenge zviri kuitika muZimbabwe. Saka tikaona zvatiri kuona zviri kuitika izvi hazvizokanganisa here bato renyu reZANU-PF panyaya yamuri kutsvaga kuti mubvisirwe zvirango zveupfumi?
Or maybe before you respond to that question, can you respond to what Mr. Pulu is saying in terms of the legal aspects of this kind of case? And as a prosecutor yourself, a former prosecutor, I assume, how do you press the magistrate or the judge to deny somebody bail. Then we'll go back to that other question.
Okay, thank you. Right. The first issue, let me talk about Ngarivhume and Chin'ono. Even though it looked like the circumstances have changed, there is an error which people are making of thinking that the demonstration was only meant for the 31st of July. They've moved on another level. They are now calling for the 31st of August. Whoever is calling it is within the party of Ngarivhume. Of course, not Chin'ono. Chin'ono is not inclined to any party at the moment. But the party of Ngarivhume had called for further a strike or demonstrations on 31st of August. So this actually plays in the hands of the judges who are saying the situation at home is inflammable. And if we let you go, it will make it worse. People will view you as a hero and then destroy the peace the nation is enjoying. So in other words, when the court is looking at it, I think my point of view, the team which is defending Ngarivhume are supposed to convince the court that whatever is happening from post the incarceration of Ngarivhume has nothing to do with him, and therefore he could be only judged on the crime he was said to be committed, to have been committing. His crime was not measured on a date of the 31st of July. It was only inciting people into a demonstration, whether it was tomorrow or 31 July or another day. But the crime was not limited to a date. But however, even though the action was limited to a date, but the crime had no limitation to a date. And because of that, it needs now the lawyer to go and argue fully that he was arrested on the basis of 31 July, and therefore 31 July is gone, the things have changed, and he is willing to not to tweet, not to lead anything else until his case is finalized. It's not gagging him. It's not stopping him from expressing his views. It simply says your views must be suspended until the hearing. Because if the hearing is going to say that your views are illegal, then you cannot continue with them. So if the court thinks that your views are not illegal, then you can continue with them. But you can't continue with them now until you have got a definitive decision from court. Then, touching briefly on my sister, my learned sister, Tetwa, Pulu had raised it a bit, saying that lawyers are being disbarred. The issue where Tetwa was asked not to appear before the court, it was not removing her from Hopewell Chin'ono. And it is a completely wrong belief by the people to think that Mutetwa is the best lawyer in the country. No, she's not. She's a good lawyer in her own right. But there are so many better lawyers and good lawyers in Zimbabwe who can do the same work she has been doing. So therefore, we cannot say they've removed a better lawyer to sabotage the case. No, that's not correct. And again, the reason why Mtetwa has been asked to stand down pending the investigations by the Law Society is because they are saying in her comments on the court's doorsteps, she castigated the court. She blamed the court to be political. She said there will be no justice from these courts. And then she urged people to act and not forget about Chin'ono and demonstrate for justice of Chin'ono. So the courts, a lawyer should never advocate for a demonstration for a court ruling. A lawyer must advocate for a presentation, a proper argument in a court of law. So my sister had erred in aspiration of wanting people to assist her by demonstration. In Zimbabwe, our system is not a jury system like in England or in America. It is the judge makes his own decision. So he's not compelled or persuaded by the demonstrations outside. The judge makes their own independent decisions. The cases in Zimbabwe are not tried on Twitter, neither are they tried on social media. So they are not emotionally connected to each other. So these are not politically charged cases. They are political cases, but when they come to court, they become strictly legal. And that is the position.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Pulu. Mr. Pulu, I think you are moving around. We can hear some noise.
But I haven't answered Marvelous.
Yes, just 1 second. Let's get back to Pulu. Mr. Pulu, I think you are moving around, so there's a bit of feedback from you there. So can it be in one place, my brother? So now, yeah. So now, Mr. Pulu, I think you've been hearing what Mr. Dr. Mabaza is saying. So, but at the end of the day, if somebody is looking for bail and is put in shackles and like irons and all those kind of things, does it make sense to you as an attorney?
Well, the issue of leg irons and handcuffs and so forth, we know that this is what the prison services will use in order to ensure that people are secure. I mean, that is well known. We've seen it with every accused of every type. However, we also know that it's something which can be used in order to violate, embarrass, and put under very difficult circumstances people who are arrested. You need to look at the level of the threat that the person is. We need to look at all those kind of things. I mean, there are cases which have said that look at the type of the offense, look at the kind of person the person is, and what are the chances that he is going to run away. So the shackles themselves per se are not an issue, but it's how they are used. I mean, even with the Smith regime, they used to use those kind of things. So it is for the public to really judge. But at the end of the day, there's the point which has been raised related to Beauty Zimthetho.
Mm-hmm.
Whether one thinks she's the best lawyer in the world or the best lawyer in Zimbabwe, doesn't matter. Hopewell Chin'ono thinks that she is the best lawyer to represent him. And he has a right to choose counsel of his choice. And if counsel were committed an offense, whether the counsel was in contempt of court, then the magistrate ought to have charged her with contempt of court first, and then found her to be in contempt of court before he could say she must desist from representing her client. So there's no way that any judicial officer can unilaterally make a decision to say, don't represent your client. As it is, as things stand, Beauty Zimthetho did not do those things that she's alleged to have done. I mean, it's on record even in the court that account does not belong to her, it belongs to other people. She would not, and given her stature and her seniority as a legal practitioner, certainly, she knows. I know Beauty Zimthetho personally. I know her as a legal practitioner, just given her seniority. While doing a case, I've told you, Gibbs, before that I refuse to comment on that case because I'm doing it. I've told you. So everywhere, there's no chance that she would have gone on to tweet those kind of things. And it was submitted to the magistrate, but the magistrate still went on to say, I'm debarring you from representing Hopewell Chin'ono. And certainly, Hopewell Chin'ono has been deprived of the legal practitioner of his choice. It's not the best legal practitioner, even the worst legal practitioner like me. Certainly, if you want me to represent you, you should not be debarred, except if I've been disbarred or if I've been charged with contempt. I could be warned to desist from doing those things. There's no way that the interest of justice will be harmed because Beauty Zimthetho, even assuming she has said those things, is representing Hopewell Chin'ono. There's a sanction that can be given to Beauty Zimthetho to stop doing those things if in the event that she was doing them. So I find that argument to be quite disingenuous. And that argument is an illustration of exactly what we are talking about. That there's no one is being earnest and being candid and being honest in as far as the approach to this case or to these cases is concerned. And so we have to be careful to reduce the emotions and try to deal with the principles. Let those people ventilate their cases and be eventually found guilty or innocent after a fair trial.
Yes, ufake isindebele nje ngamafutshane singakayi ubaba uMavaza. Yeah.
Abantu ukubotshwa befakwa izankosi into esayibona nje kudala into ehlala isenzakala ayikumangalisi kodwa kuyakhangelwa futhi izankosi lezi zisetshenziswa njani even ngezikhathi zikaSmith abantu babefakwa abanye nxa kubotshwa izankosi zibotshwa ngepintshisi abanye nxa zibotshwa ziyabe zivule zibotshwe kuhle abanye nxa betshontsha inkukhu bafakwa izankosi abanye nxa bebulela umuntu abafakwa izankosi kuyakhangelwa lakho khonokuyana lapha ukutwitha izinto zenezi ezilutshwana abazikhulumileyo nokuthi bona bafuna ukudemonstrate sokusenziwa inkatha ecala engafuna izankosi abantu abazoze baphume bagijime babaleke. I mean Ngarivhume uzabalekela abantu la uCh'ono kazange wathi uzabaleka. So izankosi lazo kuyakhangelwa khona kutyana ngoba siyakhumbula ikhezu kaSwangirayi eyake yaba khona ukuthi umuntu ongakagwetshwa uyavunyelwa even ukugqoka impahla zakhe. We've got the rulings on that regard. Nxa efuna angacela ukuthi hayi ngicela ukugqoka impahla zami agqoke. Kodwa in this case that will never happen because indlela incase le political ngayo ipolitical ngendlela enzima njalo khonoko okwalisa umthetho ukuthi abe ligqwetha lika Hopewell akuvunyelwa emthethweni njalo kuyenala indaba engadingakala ukuthi ayaliswe ngoba izinto lezana kayisuye wazikhulumayo uyaziwa umuntu wazikhulumayo isupporta nje abele lami nje phela ngayivula ngathi i-Twitter account ngithi Hopewell's account ngitweet uyaziwa ukuthi ayisuye njalo akuzange kwafunyaniswa kwatholwa ukuthi nguye. So kunokhana kuyasitshengisela ukuthi into eyenzakalayo ecaleni leli ukuthi kune politics eningi abantu bazondile kakhulu kunenge okwenzakalayo njalo kungenzakala ukuthi nxa singehlisanga umoya sayehlisa amaphaphu bangagcina bengatholanga i-fair trial ukuthi badlule bagwetshwe ngendlela ebonakalayo esegcekeni.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pulu. But stay on the line. Let's, before we bring our learned friend, Dr. Mavaza, let's bring in Marvelous, so that maybe you can explore the issue of, are these guys going to be given any bail at the end of the day? So let me bring on Marvelous. Marvelous, go ahead.
Pane mubvunzo wandanga ndabvunza Dr. Mavaza ndisi kuzoti vazopindura here. Kana uchikwanisa kumbovadzora vambopindura tozoenderera mberi tichibvunza pamberi.
So Dr. Mavaza, go ahead with that question that Marvelous posed, on the image that Zimbabwe is creating, in terms of these kind of issues that are going on in the courts. And just briefly, then we go back to the that other issue.
Thank you. I think, Marvelous, to answer the question, I think Zimbabwe is doing the best it could. It must not change its laws in order to please those who are watching. The international world is judging what is happening in Zimbabwe through social media. They have not come officially to address the government of Zimbabwe to ask them to give a report back. The only country which tried to do that was South Africa. It sent an emissary which came to speak to the president. And after that, nobody else, not even the UN or the SADC or the AU, none of them have sent a representative to find out what's happening, even the EU. So it is very wrong for the international world to make a decision, to make a conclusion on what Zimbabwe is without going there. They are relying exactly on the social media. And as we are all aware that 99% of the thumb soldiers on the social media have got a very opposing view of the Zimbabwean government, and therefore it becomes very unfair, and the scale tilts on the wrong side as far as social media is concerned. But however, before we go to the other point, let me just quickly, before I forget, respond to what Mr. Pulu had said about the shackles, handcuffs, and everything. I'm afraid I do agree with him. There is no need for the prisoners to go into court with handcuffs. If you have noticed, each time a lawyer raised a query, the magistrate will ask them to remove them. I don't see, as much as I don't like Job Sikhala, but I don't see him bolting out of court, running away if they remove the handcuffs. I think it's really wrong for the prisons to do that. It's unfair for on the accused persons. And again, when you put these people into the handcuffs, you remove their confidence. They forget a number of things. Sometimes they just sit there and keep quiet and wonder why they're in handcuffs, and they leave everything to the lawyer. They don't give their lawyer enough instructions because they are reduced to something else, which I think it is not very fair, legally speaking. And I think that the Minister of Justice has to talk to the prisons, because he's the one in charge of the prisons, and see to it that that is sorted out, because it is wrong, it is unfair on a prisoner, any prisoner, unless he has a record of running away or escaping from. We've heard stories of prisoners who jump out of court and run away. But people of the stature of Ngarivhume, Job, Hopewell Chin'ono, I don't really, I cannot imagine in the deepest of my imagination. I can't imagine Job with his big time running through the court trying to outpace people. I think it's not fair on that point, and I do agree with Kulu that that is actually done entirely to reduce them. And it's not done by the government; it's done by the prisons, and that's not part of the government.
Thank you. Can you put that in Shona briefly?
Ndandiri kuti chimiro cheZimbabwe hachisi kunyangadzwa nekuti vanhu vanyimwa mari yerubatiso, nekuti Zimbabwe iri kungoteedzera mutemo wayo. Haingakwanise kushandura mutemo wayo kuitira kuti ifadze nyika dzekunze, nekuti tiri nyika inozvitonga, inozvimirira yega. Tine mitemo yedu, tine bumbiro redu remitemo, hatikwanise kudzikisa pasi mitemo yedu nekuda kwekuti kune vakatitarisa. Uyezve vakatitarisa vari kunze kwenyika ava dzimwe nyika havasi kutuma vanhu vanouya kuzoongorora zviri kuitika muZimbabwe. Vari kuverenga madandemutande eTwitter, WhatsApp nedzimwe nhau, ende kazhinji vanonyora pamatwitter apa nemawhatsapp nedzimwe nhau dzinobuda pamadandemutande apa vanenge vari vanhu vakarerekera kudivi rimwe chete, havanyatsoburisa chokwadi chizere, vane ukasha hwakanangana nehurumende. Saka zvakaoma kuti imwe nyika igowana chekutaura pamusoro pezvayawana. Rinonzi guwa ritonge nyaya. Ende pekupedzisira tiri kuti nyika imwe chete yakangounza munhu kuti aongorore iSouth Africa. Dzimwe dzese hadzina kumbounza munhu, kana SADC, EU kana UN, hakuna atamboya kuzoona kuti chiri kuitika. Vari kungotaura zvavari kuona padandemutande, zvinova zvinhu zvisina kumira zvakanaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pulu. Your take on what you say.
I think, well, I think I agree with him on the issue of the shackles and so forth, and I appreciate, his calm down on that.
Mm-hmm.
However, maybe let me look at perhaps the issue of the international community. Of course, look, the international community would be interested and they would express an interest. I'm sure that they are not entitled to run, Zimbabwe's cause or run Zimbabwe's administration of justice.
Mm-hmm.
But however, whenever there has been a cause for concern in terms of, I think the cause of concern in this case is obviously in terms of freedom of expression. I mean, certainly, even whenever it has happened in different countries, there's always an evaluation by other countries, an outcry. Remember, we're in a community of nations. And this is one of the reasons where we cry to say, oh, look, our neighbors are refusing to buy from us. Our neighbors are putting us on sanctions and all sorts of things. Certainly, without saying they must run it, we have our sovereignty, yes. But certainly, we must run our affairs and our administration of justice in a way that is acceptable. Post-World War II, countries, states have had a say and an interest in evaluating whether there's human rights abuses in a country. If you look at this case, just on its facts alone, as put by the state, what amounts to sedition and treason and all these other things is simply saying that a government must go. Where opposition figures like Sikhala, journalists like Hopewell Chin'ono, and other people who are unhappy cannot say a government must go. Certainly, that is the ultimate violation of freedom of expression and political participation. And I think this is where the comment is coming from. It is for the readers and the listeners, your listeners, Gibbs, to evaluate whether they think it's reasonable. Even Ian Smith, we cannot find a case, even one, where anyone was imprisoned for saying that the Smith government must go. They at least tried to be decent in packaging their charges. To say you have violated A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they would monitor you until you committed a crime. But these crimes, I can tell you now that it will be very difficult for convictions to be found, on these crimes. Because none of those people, there is no single statement, particularly the ones who tweeted, because these are very strict, and they are now being held on account of saying, no, but we look at the context, but look at the tweet. And certainly I think that's a violation of freedom. There's no justification for people who have said those things to be charged. Just today I was talking to someone who was arrested for wearing a mask saying a mask saying that ZANU-PF must go, and for giving it to someone. This is the kind of thing that is increasingly beginning to happen. Even under Mugabe, you know, no one was arrested for saying Mugabe must go.
So now you're talking about the arrest of the Honorable Priest Wegoswanda, right? So
Yes.
yeah. So Storufaka isindebele kwathi kutsho ngamafutshane babaphula.
Ekade ngikusho ukuthi i-international community la amanye amazwe akhangeleyo nxa besithi bona abajabuli ngalokho kwenzakala eZimbabwe kabasho ukuthi bafuna ukuzothatha intambo zikahulumende kube yibo abenza ezomthetho. Abakutshoyo ukuthi sikhangele ukuthi elikwenzayo kumele kuhambelane lamalungelo abantu emhlabeni wonke jikelele. Siyakwazi ukuthi ngemva kwa-World War II amazwe bevele ekwenza ukukhangelana kukhulunywa ukwenzela ukuthi abantu bangafi kuthiwa abantu kabakhangelanga. So okwenzakeleyo ukuthi abantu laba maningi litsho ukuthi babotshelwe ukuthi bathi bona uhulumende kahambi umntankakho kahambi yikho abakubhalileyo khona lokho. Khonokho asiyo nto okungathiwa umuntu onjalo ubefuna ukugenqula uhulumende. Ngoba nxa uthi uhulumende kahambi kuyavunyelwa. Nxa lingathi abantu kabasavunyelwa ukutsho njalo sesephula ilungelo labo lokukhuluma umbono wabo mayelana lezempolitiki. Ngagcizelela ukuthi uSmith kazange wakwenza khonokho ukuthi umuntu othe usikahambe amthatha ambophe wayekhangela ukuthi hayi wena wenze so wephula i-curfew wenze lokho kodwa hatshi ukuthi kuthiwe uSmith kahambe kumbe kuthiwe uMgabe kazange wabopha umuntu othe Mugabe must go. Wayekubophela amacala owenzileyo usitsho njalo. Njalo wawungabotshwa wayenomthethwandaba kuthiwa maybe nxa kuthi uthethisa upresident usephula umthetho yiwo awusebenzisa. Hatsho ukuthi kuthiwe Mugabe must go, Mnangagwa must go, government must go bese kuthiwa yi-sedition bese kuthiwa yi-treason. Lokho sibone ngani yikuvala abantu umlomo ukuthi bangabi lombono mayelana lezompolitiki.
Yes, Tolbambe khonapho-ke babaphula ungamuvamuvi ube khonapho ndawonye. So let's bring Marvelous. Go ahead.
Gibbs, maybe if we can just come back here to the United States, since we have both parties represented here, I just wanted to find out, are they following what is going on here in America regarding the elections, the upcoming elections in November? We see that last week, Joe Biden was nominated to lead the Democrats. And this week, in fact, on Thursday, Donald Trump will also take up his nomination to lead the Republicans. Are people, you know, like the ZANU-PF and MDC, are they following what's going on here?
Okay, let's bring in Dr. Mavaza first. Just briefly, Dr. Mavaza.
Thank you. Right. Yes, indeed, we are following. Actually, every country is following. You know, when America sneezes, every other country catches a flu. So the decision of Americans on who is going to be the president by November would affect us as well. While in most cases, Zimbabweans at the moment, and rather the Zimbabwe government, they are not a darling of Donald Trump. And I think their prayers is that Joe Biden wins the elections, even though the Democrats are not as much close to the Zimbabwe government as the conservatives in England. We are aware that conservative is pure ZANU-PF, while the Labour in England is pure MDC. But in America, it's difficult to tell. But the reality of the matter is, yes, we are following with great interest and probably with some political prayers to hope that the American people would see the reality of the matter and choose wisely in their elections. But we cannot control the elections. We can, unfortunately, we are not allowed to send our monitors there as well, as they want to send theirs to ours. But we still monitor and hope that a better president will take the day. And which is what we are looking at, and we are hoping for a change.
Now in Shona, briefly.
Tikuti hurumende yeZimbabwe nebato reZANU-PF riri kutarisa zviri kuitika kuAmerica nekutarisa kukuru kwekuti masarudzo ari kuuya mumwedzi waMbudzi ari kufamba sei. Kazhinji nyika dzese dzepasi pano dzinotarisira kuAmerica nekuti chinenge chatika kuAmerica chine chekuita nedzimwe nyika. Saka tinotarisira kuti hurumende yeZimbabwe ine kachidiso kekuti mademocrats anga ari kutonga, nekuti ukama hweZimbabwe navaTrump hauna kunyatsomira zvakanaka. Zvakasiyana hazvo America nenyika yeIngirandi. KuIngirandi zvinozivikanwa kuti the Conservative Party inowirirana neZANU-PF, apa Labour inowirirana nebato rinopikisa. Asi kuAmerica havanyatsoratidza kuti vanowirirana nani, asi aritori nani kana kuti muroyi ari nani muroyi weDemocrat than vana Trump. Saka tiri kutarisira kuti panouya mwedzi wambudzi anokodzera kutonga America achapiwa mukana wekutonga ozotibatsirawo isu kuZimbabwe kuti anzwisise nyika yedu mamiriro akaita, asingatoreri kuti rimwe chete achidzvinyirira nyika yeZimbabwe.
Mr. Pulu?
Lathi Gibbs nxa kuvotiswa khona ngabo eAmerica besenza umncintiswano wabo wama-elections eZimbabwe sikhangele. Kodwa thina ke ngendlela esibona ngayo sibona ngazani i-foreign policy ye-America sibona ngazani thina i-foreign policy ye-America kayitshintshatshintshi kakhulu kusiya ngokuthi oku-office ngubani ongekhoyo mbani. Sibona ngani singathi thina they are consistent and what they are looking at whenever they implement their foreign policy babekhangele ama-agreements, different agreements that they draw up from time to time. They look at the international law. They look at if it's human rights, particularly on the issue of human rights. They will look at the human rights standards, the reports that we are filing on the appropriate forums. They will look at all those things and come up with their policy. Their policy won't jump around. And I think different Zimbabweans will look at it with interest towards different candidates for different reasons. But certainly, I think it becomes a topical issue whenever there's an election in South Africa, an election in America, an election in Kenya. Zimbabweans take an interest.
Yeah, so basically, when abantu beZimbabwe bale interest yini kakhulu nxa ukhona lapho lese enkulumani abantu bayakulandela yini konke lokho?
Abantu bayakulandela ukuthi kuhamba njani ngoba i-election okunye babekhangele indlela ama-elections akhona enziwa ngawo ukuthi abantu bakhona nxa besenza ama-election bayabhulana yini betshayana bayancitshana ukudla abantu babexoxisana uhulumende uyabopha abantu uhulumende kahambe izinto ezinjalo ezenzakala lapho babekhangela ngalo kuyenzakala yini kuba mangali ukuthi kanti abantu bayaphindelisa ukuthi benze election bedibhetha bephikisana katheso president bonabo ama-nominated president bazakuma baphikisane ngama-policy atshiyeneyo eZimbabwe. Ngeke uzukubone khona lokho ukuthi upresident will debate against any candidate. Babekhangela izinto ezinjalo labo ke zibamangalisa, abanye bekhangelela izizathu ezitshiyeneyo, abantu abafanani, abanye babekhangela okwabo, abanye bekhangela okwabo. Kodwa okusemqoko esiyabe sikukhangele ukuthi baphatha njani ama-elections abo. Siqathanisa lokuthi thina lawo ma-elections siwaphatha njani.
Wona ubona njani ukuphatha kwabo ama-elections lapho?
Ngibona ngazana kufanani lalapha eZimbabwe. Labo phela balawo ama-issues abalawo kuningi esiyazi kubone bephikisana ngakho. Kodwa inani labantu abafayo kuthiwa bebetshayana ama-Democrats lama-Republicans sibone ngani asikaze sibone liningi kangaka. Njalo kasikaze sibone uhulumende sithi yena uyakusupporta okunjalo, asikaze sibone abanye bebotshwa, abanye bechiywa, asikaze sibone abantu abatweetayo bebotshwa bevalelwa emajele befakwa izankosi.
So Dr. Mavaza, looking at what we are discussing here, are there any possibilities that these people that are appearing in court may be given any bail as far as we are concerned?
Yeah, they will be given bail. Actually, it is entirely up to the court. We cannot really give a decision at the moment. But we are saying if the circumstances have changed and the representatives are able to convince the court that indeed there's been a serious change in circumstances, I don't see any reason why they will be kept in custody if there's a reason for them to get bail. But in short, I just wanted to say briefly, Mr. Pulu had made a point to say that the elections in America are always peaceful, which is not correct. You must realize that in most cases, America ends up in court, just like Zimbabwe, to get a decision. And again, directly speaking, you should realize that in America, there are only 2 political parties which will be participating. So the rules and regulations are simple to boil down to cover the 2 people. But still, even though there are 2 people, you can tell that President Trump has been very violent in his words, in his approach, in insulting the Africans, insulting Obama, insulting any other person who is on the other side. And if it was not America, probably everybody in America would be arrested by now. So I don't think the MDC must not always praise the person away. The grass does look very green out there, but it is not as green and as free as people would want to think it is.
Thank you very much. Stay on the line. Let's bring in Marvelous Ngarivhume. Marvelous.
Maybe let me pose a question to Mr. Pulu to just say, so looking at what's going on at the moment, what is the way forward, especially in the cases of Hopewell Chin'ono, Jacob Ngarivhume, and also lately Job Sikhala?
I think as, from the point of view of the cases, I think the way forward is going to happen within the context of the litigation in each specific case. So I don't think it's quite open for, a commentator perhaps to say, look, this is the way forward in the case. But however, I think that eventually, something's got to give, and particularly I think the ones who were arrested way back, that is Ngarivhume and Chin'ono, they should eventually at some point be given bail. I don't think it's sustainable to keep them locked up until the trial is over. So at some point, they are likely to be granted bail. Even in the case of Job Sikhala, at some point, he is likely to be given bail, on certain conditions. So, however, in terms of the way forward, in terms of the broader context, you see, you invited me here as a lawyer, not as a politician.
Yes.
You should have invited me as the secretary for parliamentary and constitutional affairs. Then I would be able to give you a better way forward. But on the whole, I think we need to put a lid on suppressing freedom of expression, allowing people to express themselves. Yes, arrest them if they commit offenses. But there are lots of there's lots of legislation and lots of offenses that one can be arrested for. Let them be solid offenses, and once they are arrested, let them come to a free and fair trial. If they are eligible to bail, let us not be unduly. And this is to the state. Remember, when the court also sits there in deciding to grant or deny bail, it's not just the focus on the court only. There's the prosecutor also. What is he saying? If he's overreaching, overstating, opposing bail at every point, that also contributes to an unjust system. Unfortunately, the tendency is to focus only on the court. Yes, the court also should be impartial, should do its job in a certain way, but everyone should come to the table with a view to serve the interests of justice, including the lawyers. They should come with an interest to serve the interests of justice.
Thank you very much.
At the end of the day, we must err on the side, on the balance of freedom, rather than on the balance of the administration of justice, if we are on a thin line.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pulu. Dr. Mabaza, your last word. 30 seconds.
Thank you.
30 seconds. Exactly.
Thank you. Just a point which Pulu had raised earlier on, which I had not responded to. The Ngarivhume, Job Sikhala, and Chin'ono are not being charged for saying ZANU-PF must go. They are being charged for inciting people to come to a demonstration against the laws of COVID. So they were inciting people to commit a crime. That is the charge. Even if in the incitement they use the words like ZANU-PF must go or Mnangagwa must go, those are not the reasons for the arrest. The arrest is on incitement. But however,
the truth don't say that.
However, but don't look at the tweet, because there is a video by Chin'ono where he actually said people must come out in their numbers on the 31st, and that was inciting. And even one of his tweets, which the prosecutor has, he actually incited people to come out in their numbers, while Ngarivhume was the head, the leader of the 31st movement, and Job Sikhala declared himself the spokesperson of the same movement.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mavaza. So let's take this opportunity to thank Dr. Mavaza of ZANU-PF and Mr. Pulu, who is an attorney by profession. Thank you so much, Mr. Pulu. Thank you so much, Dr. Mavaza. Signing off is Gibbs Dube in Washington, D.C., saying good night, Zimbabwe. I think my colleague, Marvelous Mklanganyoye, is still around. Marvelous?
Yes, totenda vese vanga vari pachirongwa chedu, ngatisanganei mangwana paLet's Talk, ngatikurukurei. Ini ndini Marvelous Mklanganyoye ndiri muWashington.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.